Hi, my name is Victoria. I'm a child psychiatrist, parent coach, and I'm also a mum. And today I'm going to talk a little bit about how to support your child to get more to an adult sort of way of being. If your child's a teen, I often get asked this for parents of teens, and you're keen to get them being maybe a bit more independent, taking a little bit more responsibility. Maybe they're even asking for independence in some ways, but they're actually not prepared to do some of the other more adult things that they're expected to do, and you're not really sure how to get them there. This is exactly what this video is about. And of course, I'll be using the 4 essentials to kind of think how we support them to make those important steps and to move forward. If you have some very more specific questions, please do come and join the community. It's free, it's on Facebook. I do lives there answering your questions and often extra posts to answer the things that are coming up for parents. So please do join that. And of course, please do join my email list. There's now more free videos available with that. And of course, you will get all the updates with these kind of videos and blog posts into your inbox. So let's talk about how to help your child transition to a more adult way of being. So it's not just about supporting them to be more independent. Sometimes you have to create the right environment for them to feel able to go out and be independent, because of course they are going to encounter difficulties when they do that. When they're out in the world doing their own thing, like everyone else, they're going to encounter difficulties. So it's really important that they're able to step back home and feel that they're safe there. If they need to talk about it, if they need to discuss what's gone wrong, they're not going to get laughed at. People aren't going to say, well, I expect you to be able to do that. So you've really got to create a very safe, especially emotionally safe base. And it might even be that when they get home, if they've had a really rough time while doing something, pushing themselves out there, that they do really need a lot of care, and that's got to be okay. They've got to know that they can come back and receive all the kind of support they're going to need. Because if they know that, they're much more likely to push themselves out there. They're much more likely to challenge themselves because they know they're going to get the support they need. If it doesn't really go right, you'll be there to catch them. In terms of sensitivity, of course, only you know what the steps are that you want your child to take, where they're at now, and kind of where you expect them to go. What would you expect them to be able to do at the age they're at, or perhaps you're sort of looking further ahead and you're thinking, well, by the time they're this age, I would really, like them to be able to do these kinds of things. And different parents put emphasis on different things. Some people are keen that, their children can cook and look after themselves in terms of, doing their laundry and that kind of thing. And other parents are more interested in their child making decisions about their future, or perhaps a combination of the two. There's all different things that parents like to focus on. So I think you've got to be clear in your mind where you want your child to be heading. And I think then the sensitivity part of it is really thinking, what can your child start with? When you look at all the different things you want them to be able to do, what's the first thing that you think will be the easiest for them to do? Perhaps they already sort of sometimes do it or kind of half do it. How can you build on that? How can you get them going towards that next step? So in your mind, building out a little bit of a route. So, start with this, and maybe once they can do that, we can then introduce this. So you can help them get from one thing to the next rather than expecting them to jump from where they're at now to the place where you want them to go. Really thinking through those steps and even talking through them and saying, look, I'd really like to do these kinds of things. What do you think is going to be the easiest out of all of this? What do you want to start with? So that's part, the sensitivity part of it, is knowing exactly where to start. In terms of boundaries and frameworks, I think it's really important to convey to your child what the expectations are. I think sometimes, especially with older children, we sort of have an internal expectations they'll be doing more, but often it's a bit vague and we're not exactly sure what more means, and they might not be exactly sure what more means. Does it mean that I do my own laundry? Does it mean that I put away the laundry as well? Does it mean that I do my own ironing? What does more mean? So I think getting very clear in your mind what your expectation is from your child, and really setting it out before them, sitting them down and say, okay, I've been thinking about this, you're now this old, and I would really expect you to do these particular things, or this one thing if you want to start kind of small. And, how are we going to do that? How will you start to do that? What day would you like to do it on? And kind of have the practical conversation, but very much put the expectation to them and only expect that. So if they don't do other things you haven't talked about, then don't expect them to be doing them. I think sometimes we just get into a general sense of, oh, well, they don't do enough and they, I wish they were more independent. But actually get clear in your mind what that means and have very open and honest conversations about that and about what your expectations are, or maybe that by a certain time your expectation is this. Because then there isn't that unsaid kind of feeling of, something isn't happening and your child might not even know what it is that you are wanting from them. And also think with them, what's the reward for that? If they are able to be independent enough to do this thing, do they get some other kind of independence that's maybe something a bit more that they want? Maybe it's to do with having your own money, maybe it's to do with having a bit more time up, maybe it's to do with phone use or some kind of other independence that maybe they're not at the moment, because that will really motivate them to work with maybe some of the things they're not that excited about doing, because actually it's them sort of demonstrating they're adult enough to handle this, and therefore they're adult enough to handle a little bit more of the kind of freedom that they would like. So it's a really nice way to tag team those two things and help keep them motivated to actually do the things that you talk about. Do be prepared that when you're doing these things, sometimes your child will retreat. They will push themselves, push themselves, push themselves, and suddenly you'll almost see them like regress, and they might suddenly want a lot of care and nurture, especially if they get ill or if something really bad happens. And it might take them a bit of time to return back to that independent state. And that's really quite normal, because them pushing themselves and doing those things, it is a bit of a challenge, and they might just sometimes need to check in that you will still look after them when they need it. They might just need to touch that base and know that. So do put time aside to spend sort of nurturing time with them. So do something that you both enjoy, and they might choose to do something that you might think is, I don't know, a little bit babyish or something they used to like a long time ago. But it's really good to fit those things in, to let them know they can go back. They can go and enjoy maybe like a film they used to like when they were little, or go to a cafe they used to really enjoy when they were a bit smaller. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that because you're going into an adult life you can't enjoy things that you used to enjoy before. You can integrate them into what you do, and that's kind of part of play. And play that you have with your child can be whatever it needs to be. You can do something really fun, really messy, something they used to enjoy before. It doesn't, you're an adult now and that's it. You don't go back there. You don't watch those kind of things. You don't go to those kind of places. And so kind of really model, like, even as adults, sometimes we like to return to the things we enjoyed. We like going back to places that we liked, and that's okay. That's part of who we are. So helping them integrate the kind of younger them into their new identity is a really good way to nurture them and allow place for that to happen, so they feel safe to do that. So hopefully you got a few ideas from that. I don't know what you'll go away and do. Please do let me know. I'd love to know if you implemented any of that and if it worked for you, or if you actually encountered some difficulties. If you're in the group, in the Facebook group, pop a post on, pop a comment on, and I'd love to know, to kind of, reply to it and think together, because I really enjoy doing that. And of course, the lives are the best place to do that. So hopefully I will see you there.